Hi, Kenny. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you today, Erin?
I'm good. I'm
Awesome.
good.
Yeah. It's kind of a hinky kind of day today, being the 20th anniversary of 9/11, and we have vowed never to forget. And so, yeah, it's been an interesting morning. Yeah.
Yeah, it has been. I
Yeah.
started listening to some of the speeches that were being done, and it was just very sobering, humbling hearing hearing some of that. And just for a brief moment, it made me feel like, oh my goodness, the nation is unified. We're not in a pandemic. We're not fussing and fighting over vaccines and wearing masks and all of that. Just like for 1 millisecond, like I felt that, hearing some of the leaders speak. And I just wish we could stay in that space, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. It was I had to give myself permission to step away this
Hmm.
morning because I had it playing, and as I was listening to names being read and seeing the names going across the bottom of the screen of those who were they were murdered on
Hmm.
9/11 20 years ago. I just needed some space, so I went out and sat in my backyard, and I put bird food in my bird feeders, but it's way too hot here for my
Hmm.
birds to come and visit with me. So I just kind of sat outside and, just talked to the universe about how grateful I am that I'm still here and that New York is so resilient, and
Hmm.
United States has these glimmers of resiliency and love for one another. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just grateful to be here today.
Yep.
Yeah.
Me too. Me too.
And grateful for all of our servicemen and women who had to continue to defend our country post such a tragic act of terrorism against us. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I agreed. Yeah, I was thinking about that too. Like just this whole last month has created some conflicting feelings amongst our military members, and then the anniversary of 9/11 coming up. There are going to continue to be some conflicting thoughts and feelings. And so I've been thinking a lot about that as well.
Yeah. So, for everybody listening, never forget, always remember, and, just be grateful. Grateful, grateful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's things like this that I love working with the military population. That is my preferred population, even as a sexual health professional. I really enjoy the work that I do with them. I consider them a marginalized population. I know under the sexual health umbrella, they're not really listed as a marginalized population, but I think that they are. I think that we forget about them, all the things that they have to endure when they're deployed, when they have to move around a lot and they're separated from their families and all of that. And, I have never served in the military, but the fact that I really, really love working with them, this is my way of giving back and, showing that I really honor their service to our country.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate that you are in this field and providing services to our service personnel. I never served as well. I have the honor of being a child of service members, so it's just a really weird, unique, and beautiful time to be an American.
It is.
Because in spite of all the things that can divide us, we still acknowledge all the things that we fight for. So, yeah,
Yes.
there's a lot of things that could divide us, but we're standing strong today.
Yes, we are.
Yeah. So, what's our topic today?
Well, our topic, switching gears like 1000%, is going to be something fun. We're going to be talking about kink or
Ooh.
BDSM, and we're going to cover things in a very superficial and broad manner because there's a whole lot to that topic. And we're going to use resources from both Kenneth Play and from Dom Sub Living, because I'm actually, I've actually purchased the courses and done the coursework from both of them. And I highly recommend their courses. And I'm going to make sure that I put that information at the bottom of the screen in the comment section after we're done with this so that people will have that so they can go back to it. I highly, highly recommend their courses on BDSM and kink. And I've gotten way more out of their courses than I have from anything. How can I say this without being unprofessional?
What I think you're trying to say is that their courses are educational, entertaining, and keep the participant engaged compared to other courses. That's what you were saying, right?
Yes, definitely that. And they're not expensive either.
Yeah.
Like I've gotten way more
Bang for your
content.
buck. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And the stuff that I've gotten from folks that have a whole lot of letters after their names, I don't think that I really got enough, but I'm doing that because it's required of me. But what I'm going to be presenting today, I would like for people to, whether you're a professional or not, these are two highly, highly recommended entities. And so that's why we're doing this today to make sure that people have the resources that they need and they're safe when they're engaging in this lifestyle.
Absolutely. Okay. I'm ready to learn and ready to share what I have learned as well and see
Okay.
how it goes. Okay.
All right. So the first thing we are going to do, let me see what we're going to pull up first. Let's do some terms, the key terms. I've got to do my share screen here. Okay. Are you able to see that?
I am not. I think it's thinking about it.
Okay.
Let's see. No, I'm still not seeing it.
Okay.
Let's see if I can bring it up in my email. But if I bring it up in my email, then our viewers won't be able to see it either.
Okay. It just says here that an error occurred.
Okay.
So let's try it again. We may have to just talk about it, but let's try it again. Let's see. We're going to do some key terms. See if you can bring it up.
I'll try.
Maybe it's not allowing me to bring it up because I'm pulling it up in Google Drive. I might have to bring it up under a PDF.
In our Google Drive, it is currently saved as a PDF. Let's see if I
Okay.
can go ahead and present.
All right. And it's going to be on YouTube, and we're going to also make sure that this is podcast and the resources or the place where you can get all of this information. We'll make sure that you can contact us by email, and we'll give you the resource.
No, it doesn't look like it's going to allow me to share or present now
Okay.
because you're the host. Which
Okay. Well, let's try something different. Let's do the Kenneth Play one
okay.
because I believe that one.
We-
Can you see that one? Can you see it? Because I've got it up here on the screen. So what we have here is the Kenneth Play resources, and I'm not going to open up any of the PDFs. What Kenneth Play has, he's got the general kink, like the safety stuff, and he's got some of the, like what I also have is the yes, no, maybe list, and I do give that to some of my clients too. And it looks like we lost Kenny, but she will be back. Here she
Sorry
is.
about that, everyone. Okay, yes, I can see it.
Okay. And then we've got the dominance and submission. And there are several books that are listed here,
Yes.
other resources. The new topping book by Dossie Easton and Janet Hardy. The new bottoming book by Dossie Easton and Janet Hardy. Impact and sensation play. If you have purchased the Kenneth Play program, watching this, the way that he does all of this, it's very enlightening, and that's a mild word for it. And then going down here, the rope bondage. And so these are just some of the resources that I'm naming here, and this is for Kenneth Play. And I'll just make sure that everybody has those. All right. And since we're not able to pull up all of the other stuff, we'll just have to name some of the things that we were talking about.
Okay.
Like, for example, how about the contract? Let's give an example of what the contract is. Do you want to talk about that one?
Yeah, I'll bring that up for us.
Okay.
So there we go. So with the Dom subcontract, okay. So what it is, it starts out with the submissive and the dominant, and it just lists out who's part of this contract. And then it talks about what the parties are agreeing to, the fundamental terms, so the purpose of the contract, and it talks about what are we wanting from this. So it says under the terms of the contract, everything needs to be consensual. And we've talked about consent before in previous videos and in previous podcasts, why consent is important and how it allows communication and for everybody to have a good time. The contract also goes on to talk about that they will not suffer any serious infectious or life threatening illnesses. Again, that's part of consent. And they talk about other fundamentals of the contract. Then it goes on to talk about the roles. So I'm going to be a little bit more specific on the roles here based on the contract. So the dominant shall take responsibility for the well being and proper training, guidance, and discipline of the submissive. And that's important because we want to know how and who is doing what and what the experience should be like or what we would like the experience to be. He or she shall decide the nature of such training, guidance, and discipline and the time and place of its administration, subject to agreed terms. If any time the dominant should fail to keep to the agreed terms, limitations, and safety procedures, the submissive is entitled to terminate this contract forthwith and to leave the service of the dominant without notice.
It sounds very official, doesn't it?
It does. And the importance of it being an official document is for safety,
Yeah.
right? I mean, and we're not just talking physical safety, we're talking about emotional and sexual safety as well, right?
Yes.
All right. So it goes into starting the contract. The contract will be effective for a period of time. So in this one, it is 3 calendar months. And then it goes on to say that if the two parties wish to change the contract or extend it, they can discuss that arrangement that period of time. They can ask for an extension or change in the adjustments. Okay, then it goes on to availability. The submissive will make him or herself available to the dominant
Hmm.
from date to date. This one, it gives an example from Friday evenings through Sunday afternoons, each week during the term at the time specified by the dominant. It talks about the location, service provisions, what the dominant shall do and what the submissive shall do. And each of those sections
Hmm.
have multiple steps, activities, and then it also talks about safe words. The
Yeah.
dominant and the submissive recognize that the dominant may make demands of the submissive that cannot be met without incurring physical, mental, and emotional, spiritual, or other harm. In such circumstances related to this, the submissive may make use of a safe word. And then you put your safe word in there so that everybody knows. And then there's a conclusion, signature date, signature date. So, Erin, as you stated, it's a pretty official document and it's
Yeah.
very technical. It comes with appendices. And so, when we're talking about practicing, because a lot of people think, or I know that when I started to learn about Dom and sub kink culture, I thought, man, there aren't any rules in this. And I think a lot of people go into thinking, if you're a layperson, that the submissive just gets beat up however they please by the dominant. The more that I learned about it and knowing that there are contracts involved, that is not what happens at all.
Right.
Okay. And when you're going into the contract, you can determine in your contract what is and is not on or off the table.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And it should be in writing. People, when I've spoken with clients, I usually ask, "Do you have a contract in writing?" And when people are just getting involved in the lifestyle, in the kink lifestyle, they don't have it in writing. They say, "Oh, we just have an agreement or we have an understanding." And as a sexual health professional, I tell them that that's not okay. That's not good enough. It really does have to be like a regular contract. It should be something in writing. And then one of the workshops that I did benefit from
Mhm.
was about BDSM and the law. And so this is another reason to actually have a contract in writing, because people are running into situations where law enforcement may be involved. They may hear something or a neighbor may call, and law enforcement kicks in your door and they may find somebody tied up or being beaten up, or what they think is being abused in some way, and that's not what's happening. The individuals are in a scene, in a kink scene, and the person who is the submissive, they're trying to explain, "Hey, this is what's going on here and I'm consenting to this." But if you don't have something in writing, it makes it challenging to defend that. So having things in writing, having a contract in writing, that's another reason to have that done.
That totally makes sense, especially in many non-progressive states
Yeah,
where if there is a domestic violence call to the home,
yeah,
somebody's going to jail.
exactly,
If the
exactly.
call has been made, it's an understanding that somebody's leaving in the back of the vehicle. It's no longer a cooling off period. So,
Correct.
yeah, having a contract written and available that if a neighbor does call totally makes sense.
Yeah,
Or if you show up depending on the terms of your contract and you have bruises that may be visible and then HR gets involved, like you don't want to have to go see your EAP if that's not something that you need.
right.
So yeah.
Yeah. And I've tried to talk to people about, like, sometimes people will ask, "Well, hey, can I use my insurance for sex therapy?" And I know that they're wanting to talk about this type of stuff, the kink kind of stuff. And this is sex therapy. This is under the sex therapy umbrella. And so then I ask them, "Well, what's the diagnosis going to be? Number one, and how am I going to submit that to an insurance company? Do you want Blue Cross Blue Shield or TRICARE or whomever to know that you're spanking somebody or tying them up or humiliating them or doing any of those things? Like, how am I going to document that in your medical record?" And people don't think about those things.
Yeah.
So, no, you can't use your insurance for any of this. You wouldn't want to use your insurance, because then there has to be a medical record associated with it. You have to be diagnosed with something when there's nothing wrong with you, despite popular belief. People that are engaged in the kink lifestyle, there's nothing psychiatrically wrong with you. And so you don't want me to have to diagnose you with something just so that you can use your insurance. You want to be seeing me because you're trying to renegotiate your contract or something like that.
Makes
So,
complete sense.
yeah. And I don't think that crosses people's minds, but it's going to now when we're talking about it.
And this is the reason why we're talking about it.
Yeah.
I know that we can't pull up the key terms on screen, but did you want
Hmm.
to go over some of them?
Of course. Of
Okay.
course.
All right.
Yeah. You can pull up the key terms. And by the way, a lot of this is coming from the Dom Sub Living. And again, we will make sure that we put that link in the at the bottom of the screen on the YouTube channel. And we're going to also make sure that it's posted on the podcast.
Absolutely. All right. So just we'll kind of go through a couple of them alphabetically. So key terms in Dom sub literacy as you're learning about kink and this aspect of kink. Just starting off with aftercare. because I think that's one of the handouts that we're going to link to as well. Is that correct, Erin?
Yes, I can do
Okay.
that one after you get finished with the key terms.
All right. So with aftercare, it's referring to the attention given to a sub at the end of a scene. Aftercare often includes the Dom utilizing various pampering techniques on the sub in an effort to provide comfort after having an intense experience that can leave them vulnerable state. So aftercare sounds just like what it is just ensuring that we're tending to the needs of our partner, specifically the sub. And then the scene, because that's a part of that definition. A scene is a BDSM activity or encounter involving one or more people. It may or may not involve sexual activity, and it may also be referred to as play or a session. I think that's really key there. It may or may not involve sexual activity. I think a lot of people go straight to in a dom sub relationship, it's automatically sex. But there's other
Yes.
parts to it. There's humiliation that could be just as erotic or just as useful to help reduce stress and anxiety. There can be bondage that doesn't include any sexual contact. There can be spanking or flogging, rope play that doesn't have to include any sexual contact. There can also be age play. So, a type of role play in which a person pretends to be an age other than their current biological age. That could be, for some people, really therapeutic and help them process things that may have happened in a traumatic time in their life. I guess I should really say what BDSM is, right? That would be a key word. It stands
Yes.
for bondage, discipline, dominance, submission, sadism, and masochism. BDSM.
Yes.
Yeah.
And an example of age play would be something like the the daddy little girl, or what's another one?
Mommy baby, where
Mommy
we
baby.
have
Yeah. Mhm.
an adult, wearing diapers, using a pacifier, being in a crib,
Yeah.
things of that nature.
Yes.
Let's see. Sometimes I saw a video where it was like a playpen setting, so there were multiple age players where they were acting as like toddlers and
Mhm.
interacting with toddler specific toys. So that could be really helpful.
Yeah.
Moving on, some other key terms or definitions. A bottom, a submissive partner in sexual play. Let's see. A brat, a term to describe a sub who enjoys misbehaving to the dom for attention and punishments. Let's see. Oh, we had talked about this a few weeks ago when Will was with us. We had talked about the collar and how not everyone wears like a leather dog chain collar. It can
Right.
be specific to your play with your dom. And so it's a symbol of ownership. It can be worn just in play or it can be worn throughout, your weeks. It's a symbol of a lifelong relationship with a sub.
And it doesn't have to look like a collar. A lot of collars just look like a piece of jewelry. And there are times when I'm out in public when I try to guess if a necklace that someone is wearing, if it's really a collar. And so I'll just try to look at the interaction between the two people, and then I'll just say, "Oh, that's so that sub is wearing a collar." And it's just a fun thing to do. If
I
you're
like it.
if
Yeah.
you're familiar with some of this, it's a fun thing to try to figure out if somebody's a dom or a sub. When I went to one of the dungeons a few years ago, there were people who were, I think they were just into the 50 Shades of Grey thing, and they were pretending, maybe. And there were people that were pretending to be dominant, or I thought they were pretending to be dominant. And so I just said, okay, well, there's just a whole bunch of submissive people in here. Because that's just what I thought. Okay. Because I know that I'm a pretty dominant person. And so I was just like, oh, okay, well, this is just a whole bunch of submissive people leading. other
Other
submissive
submissive
people.
people.
Yeah, with real collars. And then I was turned around and then I just felt like the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. And I said, "Oh my God," like my spidey senses went off. And then this guy walked by and I said, and I didn't even see him. And I said, "That dude is dominant." And then I turned around. I said, "Yeah, that's him." And then his partner, his girlfriend or whoever, whatever she was, you could tell that she was submissive, but she wasn't wearing anything that indicated she was submissive. But I could just sense that that's what the relationship was. And they didn't have to be wearing
Mm.
anything to indicate any of that. And to me, that's a true Dom sub relationship. And so that was really intriguing to me that I saw all these other people like kind of putting on a performance. And I'm like, yeah, whatever, y'all. And then just this one couple comes in and they were the real thing.
Oh, that sounds cool.
It was. It
That
really
sounds
was.
cool. Okay. Okay. I'll just do a few more key terms from the list. Dominant, because we were just talking about, it's the person of power or authority and control. And then they practice a form of domination, whether it be physical, mental, emotional, or a combination of both.
Mhm.
And then it's safe to say that if we're going to talk about a dominant, I should probably scroll back down to submissive, a person that gives up some degree of authority, control to a dominant, either
Mhm.
all the time or a duration of a play scene. So and then you can have a switch, which is a person who participates in BDSM activities, sometimes as a top and other times as a bottom. In the case of dominance and submission, sometimes as a dom and other times as a sub. So, three keywords when you hear it, and like you said, you mentioned those 50 great. I never read the book or saw the movies. I'm sorry. 50 Shades of Grey, right? During that really popular cinematic feat, I guess. I don't know, Erin. I tried so hard, but I was like, this shit's not real, guys. Like, this is not what it looks like in real life. So, yeah. So, a Dom, sub, a switch. And then let's
You're
see.
bringing up a good point too about dom, sub, top, and bottom,
Mhm.
because you can be a dominant bottom
Yes.
and a submissive top. And I know that's confusing to people,
Nope.
but there's that too. So now people are going to be all confused about that.
And again, this is the reason why this is fun to talk about because
Yeah.
then you get to go research and say like, "Oh, am I into that?
Hmm.
Do I enjoy that? Have I seen this?" And then just, I'll just leave it here so we can move on. A kink, a term for non-vanilla sexual behavior. And so that's what we're talking about today. Kinks.
Yes.
Non-vanilla. Vanilla is a subject term for used to describe normal or bland behavior or people that are devoid of kink. So, yeah.
Devoid. And so what is now I want to know what is vanilla? Sometimes I'll
Vanilla.
ask people like, what's is it? Are you vanilla? Are you rocky road? Are you butter pecan? Like, wait, what are you? So if you're kink, what does that mean that you are? Are you rocky road or like, what are you?
I think it really depends on the culture
Hmm.
because truly there are some subsects of culture that okay, here I'll give you this. So like if how you grew up everybody has sex missionary style. That's
Hmm.
all you're ever taught. That's all mom and dad ever told you. That's everything. Your friends are just having sex missionary style. That's it. And then you whisper to somebody, I had sex reverse cowgirl. That may be considered kink. And you may
Hmm.
be diving into the rocky roll of your subsect of your culture, right? And then
Hmm.
there's others who are like, well, I started out having anal sex like when I was this. And so now that's kind of normal for us. We have anal
Hmm.
sex at least once a month and we have vaginal intercourse, every other time. but we're now incorporating another person. That
Hmm.
now may be kinky for them. So I think kink is different for everybody.
I think so. I
Yeah.
think so. And I like to ask people too what the difference for them between being sexually experienced
Mm,
and sexually sophisticated. So usually if you're sexually sophisticated, you probably know what kink is. Like there's more kink involved in your sexual activity. You can be sexually experienced. You can have had, you know, 20,000 sexual encounters and still not really know what you're doing.
absolutely.
So there's that.
There's that.
They think that they're sophisticated, they're just experienced.
It happens a lot. Don't be
Yes.
embarrassed, guys or gals. Don't be embarrassed. It happens a lot.
Interesting that you said guys first. Okay.
Just and I only said it first because culturally, if a young male or penis owner goes out and has sexual contact with somebody, they're like high fived. Whereas, young vulva owners, they're like frowned upon. So then they try to keep it to themselves and their experiences may be stifled. So that's why I said guys first, because they're out there racking up numbers.
Yeah.
Whereas vulva owners are sometimes, and penis owners, there are many because they have more education now than they did in the past. But a lot of times, vulva owners are like, I want to be pleased. I don't need a lot of people. I just need something really good. So, yeah, it could go both ways.
Yes.
All right. So, we talked about some key
Six.
terms.
Okay.
All right.
What is going to be next on our list? The Dom guide, how to be a good sub. We don't have to go over those. Let's go over to, I think, aftercare, because
Yeah.
aftercare, that is something that doesn't have to be restricted to kink. Aftercare is important for all sexual play.
I'll agree with that. All right. Were you able to pull that one up?
Yes.
Okay. Where would you like to start?
So with this one, there's a checklist here. And so aftercare, as Kenny mentioned earlier, it's taking care of your partner after after sex play or after a scene has occurred. It could be anything from, placing a blanket over your partner, or making sure that they have water, or maybe some snacks, something with sugar content, maybe some fruit or something like that, because remember that sex is a physical activity. If it's kink stuff, you may want to have a first aid kit. If somebody has been tied up or if they've been spanked, you may want to have a first aid kit there to take care of any injuries. You may want to have a stuffed animal or their favorite comforter, giving them, making sure they have an orgasm after they've been dealing with all of the other stuff that's been involved with BDSM. Because, like we said before, it's not always sexual. Like most of it is not sexual.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in order to reward the person or just for part of the aftercare, allow the person to have an orgasm. Doing some sort of debriefing is important. Asking them questions about if they're okay. Is there anything that I can do to make you feel better? Cleanup, that's another one. Depending on if what type of sex play occurred, make cleaning things up or running a hot bath, verbal assurance, those types of things. And these are things that you don't really think about, even with vanilla sex. Many times we don't even think about aftercare with a partner. Usually, one person rolls over and goes to sleep and the other person runs to the shower. Well, for real. Isn't that what happens?
Well, it's what's depicted on TV, but I hope it's not really what happened. And it's not. You're not wrong. You're not far off base, and it's what people come to sessions to talk about. Like,
Yeah.
I need more after sexual contact, and and it's not that their person or their partner is unwilling to give it to them. They're just like, oh, I didn't even know that's something that can be involved in our, because it's foreplay, the act, and then after.
Yes.
Okay. And
Yeah.
I'll think, oh, we put a lot of effort or emphasis when we started to change the discussion and the narrative about sexual education
Hmm.
and in women or vulva owners enjoying sex, like when that education started to happen, there was an emphasis. Okay, you want your partner to enjoy herself, you got to have some foreplay in there. And
Hmm.
then when you're having sex, you'll probably enjoy yourself as well. Now we're leading in and educating people. Okay, yeah, so you got the first two parts down, the aftercare is equally as important. So I hope people are not just rolling over, pulling on the blanket, and the other person being doing that funny waddle run to the shower.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, I don't think we put enough focus on that. I don't think we talk about that enough, the need for that.
Yeah.
One of my colleagues was talking about how her one of the things that she likes most about aftercare is when her partner makes sure that there's food available. Like food has already been prepared prior to the sexual encounter. It's there, and then her partner, brings her something to eat. And so that,
That
that kind of stuff wouldn't have occurred to me. Like, oh, okay, well, that you put that under the umbrella of aftercare. Then you're not scrambling around and running off to Burger King or whatever. That you already have snacks and so forth prepared afterward, because you know that you're going to need to replenish your energy after such rigorous activity, if that's what's happening.
I think that it's really, as you stated, that is something that I guess we do need to provide more education about because we get to talk about it now today, but definitely something I'll have to incorporate into education moving forward for individuals because it's really important. You know, if you're engaged in rigorous activities such as anything in kink, as we're talking about it now, the first aid kit being, I think that's really important because it shows that you care. And then the person is not having to take care of themselves after the activity. Like,
Yeah.
be present for me, if I need, if I've just been flogged or spanked or whatever, it would be nice to have a little donut to sit on for, a little bit or to have an ice pack or something soothing. So yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And as
Yeah.
part of the first aid kit, remember some type of scissors, like to cut the rope, depending on the type of rope that you have. If you're doing any kind of suspension or, rope play or any of that, make sure that you have something to take the rope off. Scissors, some kind of surgical scissors. That, I think that's important. We didn't talk about that.
No, but that so makes sense. You had given me the opportunity to watch one of Kenneth Play's videos, and it's one of the things that he talks very strongly about when he is using rope play. He says it multiple times during the video to ensure that you have a device to cut the ropes if needed.
Yes.
So, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
And there's another, he makes reference to another workshop or study that I'm doing, and it's called the Shibari study. And the facilitator in there talks about that too, like the different types of rope, the different types of cutting devices, and all of that. And so I think that needs to be included in the part of the aftercare to make sure you can get the rope off.
Good to think about. Good to think
Hmm.
about. All right. Let's see.
Did we miss anything, or did we?
On aftercare? No, I think you touched everything. Yeah.
Okay. And there are other things that, we could have gone into in a lot more detail, like how to be a good submissive, how to be a good dominant, more in more detail on the contract. But I know the contract that you went over, Kenny, it was very detailed, and it's in even more detail than what you were talking about.
Oh, yes.
And you can put in a contract whatever it is that you want to put in a contract. And we think that having the yes, no, maybe list is helpful so that you can know what your yeses are, what the other person's yeses are, what they might be okay with or what they're curious about, and then what the person's hard no's are. And it's not just about what activities are, it could be what language they want to use or
Mhm.
they're not comfortable with. And you brought up something else interesting about the contract, making sure that a person is healthy enough to engage in play, not just physically healthy, but emotionally healthy. Because if somebody has been through trauma, they may not be okay yet to engage in any kind of kink play. Now, with that said, BDSM is being used for trauma healing. People are using it for that purpose. We're not saying go out and do it if you have some kind of trauma. We're just saying that people are figuring out that it is possible to use it for trauma healing because
Absolutely.
there's so much communication and consent involved. It's very empowering.
Yeah. And along with that contract with the health, the physical health and the emotional health and that part of the contract, it can change.
Hmm.
And so having check-ins with your partner, your dom or your sub and saying, this was working and this is no longer working. Can we make an amendment to the contract? Whether it's within the span, and on that specific contract, it talked about 3 months and then it can be extended or not. But within that contract, if your needs are not being met, having that dialogue, we need to make an amendment to the contract. And then when that amendment is made, making sure it's written down.
Yeah,
So, yeah. Yeah, there's so much resource for Dom sub. Yeah. I think we should do a little bit more in the future. What do you
I
think,
think so.
Erin?
I
Yeah.
think so. I think we should. And this one is probably going to end up just being on the podcast because we weren't able to do a lot of visual. But yeah, I think we'll be able to do a whole lot more of this in the future. And just making sure that people have access to the resources because, like we said, these two entities that we were making reference to, they we consider them a wealth of information on the kink lifestyle. And then if you have access to like the kink community, wherever you live,
Mhm.
Google that, whoever the kink community is where you live, they're going to also have resources. And if you know a therapist or sex coaches, they're going to also have some resources available to you that are helpful and reputable.
Absolutely. So this was a fun topic. I look forward to circling back and talking more about Dom sub resources and having some more in-depth conversations.
Me too.
All right. Talk to you later, Erin.
All right. Bye, Kenny.